Hi everyone, Kjarlune, Canada's top clairvoyant. I'm going to do a really quick video on really sensitive children. And the reason that I'm doing this is I was again on a page in Facebook and somebody was talking about their 3-year-old son and that he was, extremely sensitive and would overreact or feel the need to control kind of everything around him and not necessarily know how to deal with stuff. And so if you opened his drawers too wide or you didn't give, complete and total structure in every aspect, he would overreact. And so it made me think, I posted something, but it kind of made me think that there's a scenario now where we are dealing with so many unbelievably sensitive children. So I thought I'd do a video just to kind of give a little bit of a helping hand for those parents that are trying to raise some really sensitive, sweet, adorable, but somewhat complicated children. And the reason that I decided to do that is because at this stage of the game, if you look at how kind of everything works, the world has been around for so long that it would only make sort of logical sense to me, and I'm assuming to most people, that spirits can't possibly be new anymore. By the time we've come around and around and around and around and around, there has to come a point in time where we're pretty old on the level of our souls. And so what's happening now is that souls are being born very, very, very old, either in their last sort of couple rounds or their very last round. And so I thought I might share a little bit of information that might help people. So for those of you that don't really know me as a clairvoyant, I'm actually a transcended soul, and there's different levels and ages of souls. And I suppose the easiest way to try to understand our ages of souls, and I know everybody's going to explain it completely different, and some people are going to say there's thousands of lives, and some people are going to say that there's only certain stages. And when I'm explaining it to people in my class, I explain it a lot like life. So if you look at life and growing up, we have 12 years of school. So typically we have kindergarten and then we have 12 years of school. And then we get to go off to university. And depending on what it is we're taking in university, depends on how many years we have to do that. And then typically we have practicum and stuff after that. And that's the easiest way to understand levels of people's souls. We have to assume that everything here on Earth comes from the universe or comes from somewhere. So where did the school systems get 12 years? And in some cases 13, but really 12 years is kind of the typical norm. Where did they get that? And then where did they get university degrees and how long those degrees happen? And so for those of you that are trying to sort of understand it in a really simple level, I'm classed as a transcended soul. And so what that means is this is actually my last go round here. So I'm done university now, and now I'm in my practicum stage. What that means is I don't have any choice but to do what I do. Truth be told, I would have loved to have been a lawyer, and as much as being a clairvoyant lawyer would have been a lot of fun, if I don't actually do readings or sessions, I get physically ill. So if I try to take anything more than 2 weeks off in my office, I actually get ill to the point where I'm bedridden and I can't function. And if I do too many sessions, I get ill. If I don't do enough sessions, I get ill. So basically, my world is sort of revolved around my work. And that can cause a lot of frustration when it comes to being a wife and a mom and all of those things. And, my kids have had to deal with an awful lot of crap over the years, but it's, I don't really have a lot of say in how this works. And so there's a transcended soul, and that's sort of the end of the line. And after that, we become spirit guides, or very old souls or young souls. And I don't know that anybody having children nowadays is going to run into very many new souls. And really, if you want to try to understand a level of a person's soul, understand how they react. Do they react like they're a 5-year-old when they're frustrated, overwhelmed, and emotional? Because everything about our soul comes through in our emotions. Or do they react like they're in high school and they know everything? Are they the typical, quote, know-it-all drama queen teenager? Or are they the very old sort of, grandpa or grandma like personality where they don't really do well with having any fun, that sort of thing? And so it's really important to understand this as little children too. And you can discover as soon as they start to move around and start to get active, how old they are. A extremely old soul, or what we like to refer to as crystal child, and there's an indigo child too, and I'll explain that at some point, but right now I'm kind of concentrating on crystal. A very, 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 very old soul, you will discover very quickly into them starting to try things that they're unbelievably curious but aware, and you can tell the way that they're looking at things. So, when they, for an example, they pick something up, okay? They're very intent on checking it out, and once they've checked it out for a very short time, they kind of figure it out. They know what to do and how to deal with it. They don't require a great deal of explanation. They, when they pick up, so you pick up a big Lego block, and they know immediately what they're supposed to do with that. Whereas for, some kids, we have to show them what to do. Or just a prime example, my granddaughter, on her first birthday, she got a Minnie the Mouse little, sort of electric quad, and she jumped on it and knew exactly what to do. I mean, was pushing the buttons, and when I looked at her, I'm looking over at her, and I'm like, "You're pushing the buttons. Like, are you trying to make noise?" And she was trying to find the button that pushed it to move, because she knew that it could move. So it's those sort of things, and she's a year old. So it's those sort of things that you kind of want to pay attention to as to how old they are. The other thing that you really want to sort of pay attention to, so that you know how to deal with them, is how they deal with things. How well do they adjust to being around a lot of different people? How well do they adjust to noise? How well are they adjusting? When you have an extremely sensitive child, and that's between kind of 1 and 3, when you have a really sensitive little thing, they get very overwhelmed, and they need to have sort of everything the same. And you'll notice that they start to sort of move things together and put them in a place together. And you'll notice when they're playing with their food has to sit in a certain way. And I know, in psychology and stuff, there's all sorts of signs and things that we look for to see if there's any, for lack of better terms, conditions that we need to look at. But the older the soul, the more sort of overwhelmed we get. And as a very old soul, you typically live in a great deal of fear, and you go through night terrors and nightmares, and you get very scared when people leave the house, because you're scared something's going to happen to the people that you love. And that's all as you're getting older. But when you're sort of in between, well, typically it doesn't start nearly as much till about 5, but it can start at 3. We get very, very, very hypersensitive. Our room needs to be a certain way. Our stuff needs to be a certain way. We need to, pick our own clothes. It's far better for us if things are laid out for us in advance. We need to tell you how we need things to be, and you need to pay close attention to that. And that can be a huge struggle with parents, because as parents, we typically want to do it our way. The older the soul, the more structure and stability you need to give them. So, if you notice that they get kind of freaked out really quick, or they don't want you to touch their stuff a certain way, or they don't want their stuff moved, then you need to pay attention, get on the ball really fast, and make sure that you give them choices. There has to be a lot of choices when you're dealing with a very old souled child. And so, if I had a 3-year-old, for an example, that needed everything to be a certain way, I would give them choices. Those choices can work out to the same thing. You can look at that 3-year-old and say, okay, you can put your pajamas on, go watch TV, have a snack, kiss everybody goodnight, and go to bed. Or you can go watch TV, have your snack, put your pajamas on, cut and kiss everybody, and go to bed. They can all work out to the exact same thing, just mix them around so that that child has the choice of how they want to do that. And the reason for that is because when you're a really old soul, and you're a very sensitive child, you are unbelievably overwhelmed by energy around you everywhere. There is always energy. You're always feeling things. There is major fear, because you're trying to survive as an old soul. Picture, if you will, a grandparent trying to survive as a 2-year-old. And really, that's the easiest way to understand it. Look at the older generation when they have Alzheimer's, and they have, they need help with care, and they get very tantrum-like, and they get moody, and they get angry, and they get overwhelmed. Their soul believes that they can handle so much more, but their body and their age just simply won't let them. There's tons of fear. The easiest way to understand a really old-souled baby is to think of an Alzheimer patient, a very old person with dementia who expects that they should know so much more than they do, and it's very overwhelming, and it's very scary, and you don't necessarily know who everybody is, but everybody has this sense of familiarity to them, because if you're an old soul, that means you've been in the family over and over and over and over and over again. So it's not like you don't know in your soul who everybody is. You may not know in your head, and it can be extremely overwhelming. So giving choices, extremely, extremely important. The more creative your child is, a crystal child needs everything to be sort of very direct, and they don't like a lot of repetition. They get overwhelmed very, very quickly, and they're very old. An indigo child, which is, the easiest kind of layman's way to explain it, is the color of their aura, are very, very creative. It's important to understand that the older the soul, the more we live in our emotions. We're emotionally intelligent. We know things we shouldn't know. We're not a fan of repetition. Things getting repeated to us over and over again just irritates us. I know, things would get repeated to my son all the time, and he'd be in a class, and as soon as things were repeated to him in the class, he was just like, forget it. I don't need to learn it because you're just going to tell me another 100 times. So he'd go off and do his own thing, doodle, or go jump on a skateboard, or didn't care. As soon as you start repeating things to them, they just simply don't care anymore, because all that means in their head is that you're just going to tell them again. They don't need to retain it. The other thing that's important is an old-souled child will only remember what they need to remember. You have to understand their soul has lifetimes of information. They have filing cabinets and filing cabinets and filing cabinets of information that they can tap into in their soul. And so, they'll forget all kinds of things. It drives me crazy with my daughter, but I'll ask her to go get me something, and by the time she's gotten there, she's forgotten what it is I've asked her to go get me. So I'm constantly yelling down the stairs, no, I said this, and she gets frustrated with me and I get frustrated with her. But the truth is, they're just old souls. There's just an awful lot of information to take in. So, good news, if you have a really sensitive child, that means that they're unbelievably intelligent, extremely intuitive, and a very old soul. And really, you just need to treat them as such. Fear is a really big thing for old souls. So constant reassurance, letting them know that there's people that watch over them all the time, and there's people that are watching over their family. Communicating with an old soul child about their loved ones that are passed on, the grandparents and the great-grandparents. Communicating with them on that level makes a huge difference. So it's just a quick video. I hope it helped. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to post them, and I'll be more than happy to do more videos on old souls and how to decipher and how to be able to evaluate, all that kind of fun stuff. So have a great Thursday. Take care.